I often ask people, what's the hardest language to speak? And most people will say, well, Chinese. I said, well, if you took a 30-minute Chinese lesson, would you expect to be proficient in Chinese? And most people, of course not. Well, then why do you expect to be proficient in a fine motor skill sport like golf?
But I believe the great is still yet to come. I won't stop fighting, man, until I'm done.
Good morning. Welcome to the 35th Breakfast Ball. I am your host, Bob Cardia. To my left and to your far right,
the dashing Richie Stoltz.
Folks, we always talk about overcoming odds today. This is our third take at doing this morning. We've overcome bad microphones. We've overcome a kids' camp on a miniature golf course. We've overcome
a lawnmower.
Lawnmower, yes, being chased by a lawnmower. But we are still prevailing this morning. Remember, if you get anything out of this podcast, you get 10% when
we get 10%. They will get plenty more than 10%.
We get 10%.
We
yes.
get 10% when you are rich and famous. And
correct.
Let's be honest here, we don't discriminate. So, as Bob would always say, if you think positively while you win the lottery.
Right, correct.
Well,
we
you
get
know
10%. What? I love it. Oh, shout out to Chris Hammer, last week's winner of the Starbucks gift card. If you comment, I love the breakfast ball, and you're one of the top 10, we draw you out of a hat, and you can win a Starbucks gift card each and every week. Chris Hammer, congratulations. Yours went out in the mail about 48 hours ago, so keep an eye out. If you like what we're doing, by all means, please subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the more people we reach, the happier we are. And I guess, as Richie would say, that helps with the algorithm.
YouTube algorithm.
Yes,
it helps with the YouTube algorithm. Help us out, people. Help us out.
Wonderful. Yes, I'm looking forward to spreading the word, the message of positive thinking and performance psychology. Anyway, I'll start with our first quote of the day. Our first quote of the day is, many people set out with the idea of a positive approach, but a negative one comes in, boiling up, and defeats them. And we see that all the time in teaching golf, for sure, right? It's golf is one of those funny things that people expect immediate gratification. So, Richie, in teaching, you get a lot of people with, hit a couple bad shots and they start thinking negative, right?
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's actually, something that's the adversity you face as a golf instructor is, someone, they come in for a lesson and quite frankly, they expect to be Tiger Woods after one lesson. And, I wish I could say that is the case. If that was, I would have my own private island. I wouldn't even need the 10%. I'd have my own private island at this point. If I could make you Tiger Woods in one lesson. And, obviously that's our goal. We want you because if you are Tiger Woods, we get our 10%.
Wow, that would be nice.
We get our 10%.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. And, typically when you change stuff in your golf swing, you do something new or whatever you do, you don't get that instant gratification. And that's when those negative thoughts come in. And when the negative thoughts come in, I always like to think of, if they can come in through an empty hole somehow, some way, that means there's a way for them to get out as well. All right, they're not just trapped in there. So once those thoughts come in, you got to find a way to get them out as quick as they came in.
I agree. And golf is one of those weird things where people expect instant gratification. I know when I was in high school, I had the pleasure or the misfortune, of my gym teacher was the baseball coach. And the golf team had done very well. We made the state tournament. The baseball team was doing well. But Coach Martin, I used to go into his gym class all the time. And I'd walk in there and he'd be like, Cardia! Pretty good, by the way. If you ever hear him speak, it's a pretty good imitation. Cardia! Yeah. How hard could golf be? The ball don't move. Hit a curveball, son. And it made me laugh, always made me laugh. But like people, they see it that way. Like, oh, the ball's sitting on the ground. How hard could it be? It is a fine motor skill. So it takes a lot more than one would think it does. And I know I did this example with Richie earlier in our previous failed podcast. That if I often ask people, what's the hardest language to speak? And most people will say, well, Chinese. I said, well, if you took a 30-minute Chinese lesson, would you expect to be proficient in Chinese? And most people, of course not. Well, then why do you expect to be proficient in a fine motor skill sport like golf? So just food for thought. So how about this? Mentally tough people are disciplined thinkers. Okay. all the best players we know. And we talk about Richie, we talk about Zach and Q. You know, Q's won like 7 club championships and a tournament champions for New Jersey, and Zach's made the finals of the USAM and was the first alternate the following year. Richie's All-American, you know, course records and club championships. Yeah, they all think in a certain way. There's not a heck of a lot of self-deprecation. Not saying, you know, sometimes negativity creeps in, but like Richie said, you know, to let it go out. I sat and I was thinking to myself earlier about people that I admire that think positively, and one of the ones that came in immediately in my head was my brother, very successful senior partner of a law firm, head litigator, and this man is disciplined. Like he you know, a couple of years older than me and in fantastic shape. I still believe he benches 335. I mean, the guy is a highly successful attorney and just a remarkable. You know, every once in a while somebody asks me if it's my younger brother, which I kindly remind them, no, that is not my younger brother. That's my older brother. That is a very disciplined man right there. Is there anybody in your world that you know that you consider to be?
Yeah, you don't gotta ask me that question because we went over it 2 times already.
Yeah, but for the people at home that don't know.
I know, but they don't know. They haven't heard it twice yet.
Right.
So when I used to caddy over at Tavistock, or caddy master over at Tavistock,
Yes.
assistant caddy master to be specific, I would cover for the caddy master at times, and when I would, my part of my job was to set up caddies. So I have to call these caddies, text these caddies, and try and get people pretty much to be there on time. You know, let them know what time they have to be there, who they're caddying for, blah blah blah, all that stuff. The issue with that was nobody ended up wanting to caddy. You know, you would text these kids and they never respond.
Right. Especially on a beautiful day like today.
Yeah, they never respond. Yeah. They always wanted to be down at the beach with their friends. With quite frankly, I don't blame them. But it was always hard to get them there. But there was always one kid that, you know, I knew if I texted him, he was going to be there. He was going to be there every single time. It was, you know, hey, can you caddy this day? Yes. Hey, can you caddy this day? Yes. Hey, can you caddy this day? Yes. And that's your son. That's your son.
Yeah,
Dylan.
and originally he wasn't part of the original script actually, and you know, actually our second take of the podcast is when you brought up Dylan. My son Dylan going to medical school next year. He is like my sister-in-law Frances said, he was 40 at age 18. That the kid is an amazing worker, and he's actually been asked now. He caddies at Pine Valley, which is the #1 golf course in the United States. And he's been asked to caddy on the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour. And like recently at the ShopRite Classic, he got asked to caddy for the practice rounds for 2 women professionals. And he, you know, because he was more familiar with the course, did the majority of caddying during those practice rounds. And lo and behold, the one woman won the entire tournament, and the other woman came in 4th. So you know, I'm like, Dill, you know, did you, you know, get anything out of it? He's like, no. He's like, no, Dad. He's like, but I you know, I enjoy doing it, and I believe that, you know, doing what I do, you should be the best at what you can do, and that's his mentality, man. Like, you know, I you know, most kids out there, you hear stories today about, you know, my kid wants this, my kid wants that. I ask Dylan, you know, all the time, do you need anything? And he's like, nope, I got it. And like, he actually takes pride in being self-sufficient, which I admire the heck out of it. And
Yeah.
Thank you too, by the way, because like the thing, nice thing says that wasn't part of the original script.
It's not a thank you to me. It's a, you know, not a thank you to Dylan, but a congratulations to Dylan, because, you know, you hear a lot. This person got lucky. You know, in whatever they did, they got lucky, and that's why they were able to make it to where they made it. And quite frankly, you know, I can ask you this question. We can ask Dylan this question. I know the answer to this question. It's not luck with Dylan.
No.
It's pure dedication. It's pure work ethic. The kid never stops.
Nope.
He never stops. He's constantly going at it to try and improve every day.
Yep.
And, you know, with that comes the improvement, comes the achievements, comes, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, that's why he's, you know, been able to do all these things, is not because it was just based off luck. You know, I don't think anything was based off luck. I think it was based off pure work ethic with him. Yeah. He has grinded all the way to where he is today. Yeah.
He has laser focus. See, I mean, you listen all day long to, you know, and watch TV and it's, oh, you know, so-and-so wants to go to medical school or law school, but it's so darn expensive, right? Well, you know what? Last time I asked Dylan, hey, Dylan, do you need any, you know, money? Or did it? He's like, no, Dad. He's like, I'm working my hardest, and I'm going to do this myself. And it's like, wow, like that's so much different than the attitude of a lot of entitled kids today. Where like, you know, I can't do it because it costs too much money. He's just working his butt off, doing the best he can do, and you know, You know, I'm sure what he can't afford, he'll take loans for, and I know he's at a caddy scholarship that he's worked hard for, and you know, it's just a whole different thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now another one. So we talk golf because obviously we're, you know, golf teacher professionals and like and coach golf and whatnot, but like, you know, a different way of thinking. Like I talked about my brother, like a laser-like focus. I was watching this interview with Don Lemon and Morgan Freeman about, you know, about perspective, and it was interesting. Let me see if I get this. I always want to make sure I get this right. And let me preface this with, you know, obviously, I do believe there is racism, you know, in society. There unquestionably, unequivocally is. But when Don Lemon put this question to Morgan Freeman, does race play a role in wealth distribution? And Morgan Freeman, bang, no. He said, put your mind to something and go for it. He goes, basically, because we talk about this stuff all the time in society, that he thinks when you speak of something too much, you speak it into existence. He's like, you know, Morgan Freeman, Don Lemon, we're examples, you know, both black men that are multimillionaires because of you know, their work ethic and persistence in going anything. And again, there is racism, but like Morgan Freeman took his talent, persisted, and did what he needed to do, and he didn't use any excuses, and became, you know, probably one of the most beloved actors in the United States or in the world for that matter. So I love that, you know, that persistence and that perspective also. So let's go with quote number 2. Uh, Attitudes are nothing more than habits of thought, and if you have to basically eventually come to understand that habits create you as a person and as a performer, especially in competition. So, you know, just practicing a golf swing isn't good enough. You need to practice your thought process too. Because we talked about, you know, Dr. James Lohr, who we talked about a lot the past couple of weeks, talks about your thought process. You know, no matter, you know, if um, you are a gifted athlete who practices his golf swing all the time, which we have some of those, and they never get any better, it really has a lot to do with their attitude. That you know, there's an underlying, you know, negative undertow to that person, and it never allows them to be, you know, to be great. So I'm sure you know people like that.
Yeah, I mean, once you get negative, it completely hinders your performance. And quite frankly, thinking positive and believing you can do it, like back to your Morgan Freeman example,
Yeah.
you know, there's inequity and there's, you know, inequality. And quite frankly, I believe more people suffer with inequity opposed to inequality. I feel like everyone, you know, anyone you ask has the opportunity to do whatever they so please, whatever that might be. But they might face a little bit of an inequity.
Yes.
Inequity.
I had trouble with the word
La, 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 la.
negativism
I know.
today, and now he's having trouble with equity. I don't know. Probably in the
We
sun.
can't speak
Yeah.
today. I think it's because we've been out here all day, all
Yes.
morning so far. No, but most people struggle with more inequity than inequality. And, you know, an example of that is I play in tournaments and, you know, I play against these guys who, you know, they have backing from other people. And, you know, pretty much all they do is they play golf full time. And I don't have that opportunity, unfortunately.
Right.
Not yet, at least. And, you know, I have to teach golf. And right there, if you just take a look at, you know, player A against me, you know, they have a better opportunity of making it. But that doesn't mean they have a better chance of making it. In fact, you know, we've talked about it before that, you know, if you actually look at other sports, you know, PGA Tour, NFL, NBA, you know, sometimes the guys that don't have the good odds of making it, the inequity against them, well, they actually have a better shot at
Yeah, they're
making
hungrier,
it.
right?
You know, they end
Yeah.
up doing it. And,
I
you
mean,
know,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
it seems like there's an inordinate amount of like single moms or people that came from nothing.
Yeah.
Like you very rarely see the kid that like lived in like, you know, the pampered silver spoon society who
Yeah.
goes on to become great because they didn't have anything to overcome. And I think, you know, I know I've done it, and I know I've talked to my friends that done it. You always try to make your kid have more or better than you had, but at some point you have to make a decision, you know, that they need to work for it.
Yeah. And again, back to, you know, you asked me about negative thoughts. You know, when you have that inequity, well, all you have with that is negative thoughts. So those are the thoughts that you have to overcome. If you don't overcome them, you'll just get stuck believing that you can't do it. And believing you can't do it is, quite frankly, not a way to be able to do it.
No, that's it. Yeah, yeah,
In
you're
its
right.
simplest form,
Negative
right there.
self-talk, man. Yeah, that's yeah. You know, a lot of life is perception and presentation, and
Yeah.
if you don't perceive yourself as possibly being great, you know, or you know, you look at negativity and things that go wrong. Like today, I mean, literally, it's going to take us, folks, 2.5 hours to do something that normally took us, you know, an hour.
30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, two up an hour, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, you just have to keep, you know, keep plugging on. That's what you need to do. Now, when you find yourself being negative, okay, resetting the thought process. So, like Merlin Olsen, Hall of Fame football player, before my time, slightly before my time, probably about 10 years before my time, and way before Richie's time, was a All-Pro defensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams, and then he went into acting, and he actually was an actor on Little House on the Prairie, if you can imagine that, a big man like that. And he had a perspective, a laser-like focus on life. And let me go with this: he viewed every single play as an exciting new challenge. In his mind, he conceived that each new play was the most important play of the entire year. So I'm going to have Richie relate that to golf in a second, but imagine that. Like, each new day is a chance to be the best version of yourself you can be, or each new hour is. So, Richie, relate that to golf.
Your next shot's the most important shot.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
You know, when you're playing golf, or even just saying life, you know, the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to sit there and look at the past. You want to look at, you know, what's to come. Yeah, the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. I believe that. I
So, yeah,
preach it all day.
yeah, it's making sure that you look at, you know, or not look, but take that next shot, you know, as the most important shot, opposed to looking back on prior shots or prior mistakes or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You know, making sure that that next one is the most important, and only focusing on that. Only focusing on that.
Our quotes that we do, like we do shorts, you know, pretty much every morning, and it talks about thought process and success, and it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like there was what Richard Branson was talking about, his mind perspective. And if you go into anything with a closed mind, right? If you don't leave the door open for success or improvement, like, might as well not even go to a meeting. Like, if you walk in with that mindset. So if you walk in with a constant negative mindset, like, you know, I can't do this, or that, or not even so, like, if that's what always happens to me, then you'll never be able to succeed at anything, right? Because you've already shut off your mind to winning, basically, or to being great.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a topic that we're going to be talking about for weeks. So, mind you, right? Negativity, right? The theory of negativity, I call it, never works. Or as Rotella says, right? Positive thinking doesn't always work, right? Like, I've been, you know, over a golf shot or over a thing, and like, this is going to work. This is going to be the best. Johnny Cash has a song called Something Rose. He thought it was going to be a massive hit, and it turned out to be a complete flop. Okay, but he didn't let it stop him. Positive thinking does not always work. However, negative thinking does. I've yet to meet the person that's constantly negative that anything good ever happens for them, right? That's the truth. Anyway, folks, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe. And remember, if you're one of the first 10 people to write in the comment section, I love the breakfast ball, you go in a hat, and we give out Starbucks gift cards every single week. And then
trying out a heart in there too. Why not?
a heart.
We've been adding hearts at
For
the
a
end. I love the
positive
breakfast ball exclamation point heart. It always makes it look a little bit better, I think.
I like that. I like that. And last but not least, folks, our online store, I think we've now ironed out the problems. You know, Darby, Preston, Bob, any of the guys out there that told me that they had trouble with the online store, it's now open 365. It's open every single day. So if you want to get on there, order, you go on SouthJerseyGolfSchools.com, and you can either click on the breakfast ball link or the South Jersey Golf School link. And if you want to order merch, actually, we just ordered a bunch of merchandise for us, so we'll start promoting our own brand on TV. And then, Toby, I can mail you the coffee mug, or next time I see you, I'll give it to you. But yeah, anyway, I am your host, Bob Cardia, and to my left, to your right,
The dashing Richie Stoltz.
And when you are rich and famous,
We get 10%.
Have a great one, folks. Take care.
Glass of bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. Alcohol, because no great story ever started with, I'll have a salad.